Howdy folks, let's play Dominion. Dominion is a card game made by a fellow named Donald X, and I'm not even going to try to pronounce his last name, but it's a very good game. It's sort of taken the board game world by storm a little bit. It's sort of spawned its own little subgenre of card games. It's called a deck builder, which means that you're, instead of coming in everybody sharing the same pile of cards like in some games, or a collectible card game like Magic or something, you build your deck over the course of the game. And it's a pretty good time. The reason I am doing this is because we're going to be looking at two different online implementations of Dominion. The first one we're going to be looking at today, it's called Isotropic. It's going to actually be shutting down in a few days, so I wanted to go ahead and kind of rush this video out a little bit, get it ready so if you see it and you like it, maybe you can get a chance to play on it before it shuts down on March 15th. It's shutting down because there's an official implementation called GoCo going up. It's actually already up, but I guess they got far enough along that they went ahead and decided to pull the plug on all the unofficial implementations. So, without further ado, Isotropic Dominion, dominion.isotropic.org is the address. You can play either registered or unregistered. Registering is a good idea. You get to be on the leaderboards, and it's also a lot easier to find a match. You have two different interface options. I would recommend the image, but if you're sort of low on bandwidth, text is a good way to go as well. You got a few different lobbies. Great Hall is sort of a general lobby. It's got an auto match feature, and that's where the majority of players hang out. There's also a tournament lobby. It sort of comes and goes sometimes. Today we're going to be hanging out in Secret Chamber, which is a lobby sort of specifically designed to set up matches with your friends. I'll be talking a little bit about how to play, but I just wanted to highlight some of the specific features of Isotropic. It's a very sort of minimalist implementation. You don't have a lot of fancy bells and whistles and graphics and stuff, but it does what you need it to do. It's sort of more targeted towards the more hardcore fan. Some interesting stuff we have. You have the option to enforce identical starting hands, which is kind of nice if you want to be particularly thorough about ensuring a balanced game. Point tracker is a very helpful feature. I'm a big fan. Some people aren't, but since you don't normally manually keep count of your points over the game, you either got to keep track in your head or you just got to guess sometimes. Point tracker is an official rule, but I personally enjoy playing with it because I think it adds to the strategy. Plus, I just suck at remembering how many points I have. It gets difficult to keep track of sometimes. Veto mode, you'll see, you might see later. That's another sort of popular house rule. What that does is it adds an extra card to the setup for each player, and then you can take a turn vetoing card that you don't want to play with. So a lot of people try to sort of maximize their strategic advantage. You know, some cards people feel like advantage the first player more than the other players, or you get, you know, people who just don't want to play with certain cards because they don't find them very fun, or you just, you know, have a lot of the time what I like to do is I just try to pick a card that I don't really think fits well with the setup that nobody's really going to use, and I just kind of try to get rid of the deadweight. You can also, well, that's not what I wanted. You can also exert a little control over what cards you want to use, if you want to test out certain things or whatever. I should not have copied that. Give me 1 second. No, I don't want to do that again. Alright, so the last nifty feature is you can play a solitaire game. Dominion's not really designed to work as a solitaire game, but you can ask Isotropic to set it up that way. It's helpful for just testing strategies, getting a feel for the game, sort of trying to optimize things. There are some people online who will make puzzles and stuff. You know, you want to see how fast you can do X, or see how many points you can get in a certain number of turns with a certain setup. stuff like that. It's kind of a fun little practice mode. You just click propose game, make sure you don't have any buttons checked, and it'll ask you if you play this game solitaire. You can see that it took these rules and gave us the set. Alright, so this is what it looks like if you have the image interface, which I usually do. The way Dominion works is you buy cards over the course of the game, like I said. Those get added into your discard pile, so when you run out of cards in your deck, you shuffle the discard pile back in, and then you have all the new cards in there as well. So your deck will slowly get better over time. The goal of the game is to have the most points in your the most points when it ends, which is fairly straightforward. That can end in one of two ways. If all the provinces are gone, the game automatically ends. There's also another card that's kind of like Province, but bigger. It's called a Colony. I forgot to add it to this setup, but it's the same rule. If those are gone, then you also end the game. Or any of these three piles of cards. I mean, you can't really say that they're piles from here, but they're piles. Just gotta trust me on that one. If any three of those piles are depleted, then the game also ends. So when your turn starts, you have 5 cards in your hand. To start out with, you always have a deck consisting of 7 coppers and 3 estates, which are kind of crappy cards, but you know, obviously the point is to work your way up, so you don't start with the big guns. That means you're either going to get, except for very few edge cases, you're going to get 5 coppers and then 5 on one turn and 2 on the other, or 3 on one and 4 on the other. So you can sort of plan your first 2 turns like that. You have different types of cards. These cards are all generally going to be the same over on the right side here. You've always got estates, duchies, and provinces. Those don't do anything but sit in your deck, but they're worth points. So a lot of the strategy is getting some of the bigger ones of these. You've also got coppers, silvers, and golds. Those are your treasure cards. You'll always have those. And then if you have colonies, then you also have platinums, which are worth more money. Those cards you just play, and they give you money to buy other, more interesting cards. Curses are... I forget what the official rule is, but generally they're always there. They're like victory cards, sort of, but they're worth negative points, so you don't want them in most cases. Potions are another kind. One of the expansions was called Alchemy, and that includes potion cards. It's basically a second kind of currency in addition to just money. So there are certain cards that require different combinations of money and a potion to buy. This game I made sure to include Vineyard, which that little circly thing means you need a potion, and $0. You don't ever see anything costing more than 1 potion, but you can see things costing up to like 6 potion, or 6 gold in a potion, I should say. Alright, you also have these different colors indicate different kinds of cards. This little red circly thing next to which means it's an attack card. Not every card that interacts with other players is an attack, but a lot of them are. Those tend to be pretty powerful cards, and obviously they also tend to have negative effects on other people. But what you also have, these blue cards, those are reaction cards. Those will let you, those you can play or reveal or do whatever at any time they're triggered by other things. So here we have Moat that triggers whenever another player plays an attack, and it lets you show that card from your hand, and that attack doesn't affect you. It's a pretty decently powerful effect, and as you can see, it also has a little text saying 2 cards, so you can play as a regular action. Green cards are victory cards. They generally just sit in your deck, but they're worth points. These cards over here will also show up as having green highlights. You can see there in the little text, it's highlighted green. And similarly, you have yellow cards that are treasures, which work the same way as these guys over here. And you have orange cards. Those are durations. Most cards, when you play, you sort of put them off to the side, and then you put them back in your deck, or put them in the discard pile at the end of your turn. Durations will stay out because they provide some sort of long-term effect. This particular one's Wharf. So you get an effect when you play it, and then it stays out. And at the beginning of your next turn, you get another effect, which happens to be the same one in this case. It's also possible for cards to have more than one type. You have Great Hall here. It's a victory card, but it's also an action. So it only gives you 1 point, but it's not quite as useless in playing as this other card, this State. They're both worth 1 point. This one costs more, but it also isn't entirely useless if you draw during your turn. Alright, so what you do, draw a hand of 5. If you have any actions, you start with 1 action a turn. A lot of cards will give you the action back, like this one gives you +1 action. Some cards give you more than that, so you can wind up creating these big chains of actions. But generally you can only play 1. I don't have any in my hand because it's the first turn. So once you're done with that, you can play your money. Isotropic has a nifty little button that lets you play all your money at once. It's also smart enough in some cases where you might not want to play all your money. It's smart enough to keep that button from doing that. There is a few rare edge cases. Alright, so I've played my $5. I have 1 buy, so I can buy 1 card. If there are also other cards that let me increase the buy, like Wharf here gives me +1 buy. So I could buy 2 cards if I had that in play, but I don't. So I'm just going to buy, let's buy a Witch. Okay, and you draw your next 5 cards at the end of your turn, which does actually matter because of shuffling and things like that. So now it's my next turn. Since I had 5 last time, I'm going to have 2 next time, just because it's a deck of 10, and you can predict that. So, again, I don't have any actions. I'll play my $2, and just for fun, I'll buy a Duchess. Alright. So now, you can see here it says that I reshuffled. That means you reshuffle whenever you have to draw cards, but you can't draw cards. So now, I have a deck of 12 cards, and my Witch and my Duchess are somewhere in there. And it's a matter of luck when we get them. 4, we'll buy a Potion, just so I can show you that later. Alright, so now I get to actually show you the action phase. I've drawn my Witch. As you can see, it gives me +2 cards, and every other player gains a curse card. Obviously, that's not going to do a whole heck of a lot for me here, since there aren't any other players, but in general, this is a pretty dang powerful card. So I'll go ahead and play that, and you can see it's consumed my action. So now I drew the Duchess with that, but I can't play it because I don't have any actions left. So all I can do is play $3, and I'll get a silver. And the game keeps going like that. The fun thing about this game is that every game is slightly different. These 10 cards over here are selected from a big range of cards. You usually randomize it at the start of game. Alright, so here's Wharf. Come on. Yeah, the mouse over tells you it's +2 cards, +1 buy during this turn, and then it provides that effect again at the start of the next turn. That's also a very good card. Cards that cost 5 are generally regarded as pretty good. Alright, I've also have my Potion in my hand this time, so I'm going to play my money, and you can see that gives me 2 coin and a Potion. Alright, and since I played Wharf, I have 2 buys. So just for fun, I'm playing terribly just so I can show you as many of the mechanics as I can. I'm going to use the Potion to buy Vineyard, and then I'm going to use the $2 to buy a Duchess. Alright, and the game generally keeps going like that. You can see this time I have my cash that I bought earlier. When you gain it, you gain 2 coppers. It's also worth $3. So it's kind of like a gold, because it's a treasure worth $3. And you can get it for only 5, but generally you don't want to have a bunch of copper, so that's usually a bit of a drawback. it's kind of a give and take kind of thing. Plus there are only 10 of them. That's what these little numbers below mean. That's how many of those cards are left. That's how you can tell when something's about to run out. Alright, so I'll just play that. You can see I'm getting better and better cards, even though I'm playing like junk. So as you get more powerful cards, you'll be able to get more money, do more stuff in a turn. Generally, your best strategy is to try to get a good, efficient, well-run deck, and then start going for the point cards. It varies depending on which of these cards are out, because different combinations of cards will lend themselves to different strategies. But generally speaking, you're going to be able to score more efficiently if you wait towards the end of the game and focus on buying the big scoring cards rather than just getting a whole bunch at the beginning. Since these cards especially, the default victory cards, don't really do much for your deck, if you load up on those, you're just going to draw a bunch of those every turn and not have anything to do with them. And you won't be able to get much done. So it's best to focus on building up an efficient deck, and then at the end of the game you can work on scoring and winning. You've got an info button here. This tells you what's in the trash, which are the cards that have been somehow removed from everybody's deck. I don't think we have anything that trashes in this game. It tells you what you've got in your hand and what's already in play. It doesn't tell you specifically how many cards you have overall, just because that's a point in the rules. VP tokens, we don't have anything in play that's affected or that does that, but it's also possible to score points by collecting tokens through various cards. And since I enabled the point tracker, it will tell me, that my current score is 4, and if there were other players, it would give me that information for them as well. So that's a solitaire game. Next time, we are going to look at multiplayer, and then we'll move on to the GoCo implementation. I'll go over a bit more strategy. It'll be fun. Thanks for watching.